The grand atrium of the Azurian imperial citadel glowed beneath shifting violet lights, crystalline pillars scattering rainbows across the assembled dignitaries. Fountains of liquid silver traced arcs between hovering orbs, their reflections shimmering across faces both familiar and strange. Marcus, masked by the identity of Baron Lethan, steadied his breath. Beneath the ornate collar of his formal attire, his pulse raced, each heartbeat echoing the risk he bore. His adaptive hollow band, disguised as a signet ring, maintained the illusion, recasting his human features into those of an Azurian aristocrat. Elongated skull, opalescent skin, eyes the color of dusk. Months of covert study had led him here. He knelt before Empress Vera, the weight of the empire pressing down as he recited the pledges of fealty expected from a supposed Western province envoy, careful to hide the anxiety thrumming in his chest. Empress Vera towered above him on the dais, statuesque and draped in ceremonial armor of iridescent black, layered with gold that caught the shifting light. Her gaze was cool, the set of her mouth betraying neither approval nor suspicion. When she spoke, her voice resounded through the atrium, sharp as crystal. "Baron Lethan, your arrival is most unexpected," she said. "What compels you to leave your distant lands and kneel before me on this eve of all eves?" Marcus lowered his head, adopting the accent and cadence he had practiced in endless hours before a mirror. "My Empress, I come bearing tribute and counsel, as is custom when new tides threaten the borders. The western provinces stand ready to serve, should your will require it." A hush fell as Vera's eyes narrowed. "And what do you know of tides, Baron? There are whispers that the winds carry more than salt these days. Tell me, what intelligence rides those gales from your lands?" Marcus met her gaze with careful poise. "Only what loyal subjects would offer, Majesty. That the Rhene mercenaries stir unrest along the southern steppe, and that the ancient treaties grow brittle with each passing season." His answers stirred a murmur among the courtiers, a ripple of speculation, part intrigue, part suspicion. The air vibrated with the silent exchange of coded glances, the measured shifting of alliances. Marcus could feel the scrutiny, the subtle evaluations of those who held power in this glittering cage. A hush swept the hall as another presence entered. Princess Lyra, 7 feet tall, her angular silhouette accentuated by a prominent ridged crest sweeping back from her brow, advanced with a predator's grace. Her skin shimmered with deep purple and blue scales, catching the light in iridescent waves. 4 amber eyes, sharp and unblinking, swept over Marcus, her clawed hands resting at her sides. The crowd parted instinctively, yielding space to the Empress's enforcer. Lyra's voice was low, crystalline. "Baron Lethan, the western provinces have been silent for many cycles. What has stirred you to cross the old border now?" Marcus forced himself to hold her gaze, recalling everything he'd learned of Azurian customs and sacred traditions. "There have been border skirmishes with the Rhene, our temples have been desecrated, our merchants harried. I come seeking the Empress's wisdom, and perhaps her favor in quelling these troubles." Lyra circled him, her movements fluid, deliberate, the talons of her feet clicking softly on the crystal floor. "Describe the rites your people performed to sanctify the new moon last season," she pressed, her tone deceptively mild. He answered with practiced calm, detailing the rituals he had memorized: the offering of silver petals, the recitation of ancestor names, the ceremonial burning of incense beneath the 3 moons. All the while, he felt the weight of her scrutiny in every glance and gesture, the slightest twitch of her facial muscles betraying a relentless calculation. "The Rhene have never crossed so far west before," Lyra continued, her expression unreadable. "Why do you think that is?" Marcus allowed a measured pause. "Desperation breeds boldness. Their chieftains sense the shifting of power, the promise of spoils. They would test the strength of your reach, Princess." She inclined her head, a faint glint of approval or amusement crossing her eyes. A well-reasoned answer, Baron. Yet there's something unusual about your bearing. I have traveled far, Princess. Perhaps the journey has left its mark. After the formalities, a lavish reception began, a minefield of veiled threats and shifting alliances. Dignitaries drifted between tables laden with phosphorescent fruit and steaming crystal decanters, conversation bristling with coded meaning. Music, haunting and ethereal, floated from an unseen ensemble. Marcus found himself the target of curious stares and subtle interrogations, every exchange a dance with danger. Princess Lyra sought Marcus out, her presence casting a ripple through the room. She offered a crystalline goblet, the liquid inside swirling with sparks of blue and gold. Baron, you look as though the weight of the Empire sits on your shoulders. Come, walk with me. He accepted the goblet, letting her steer him away from the crowd and into the shadow of a towering column. Her voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. You mentioned the Rin mercenaries. Tell me, what do you make of the rumors that they've struck an accord with the Sithar clans? Marcus kept his tone neutral. Rumor travels faster than truth, Princess. I have heard such talk, but I've seen no proof, only the chaos left in their wake. She watched him intently, her 4 eyes searching for any flicker of deception. And the sacred relics reported stolen from your temples? He shrugged, feigning resignation. Many claim responsibility for such thefts. In times of unrest, the lines between thief and martyr blur. Lyra's gaze sharpened, but Marcus's measured replies seemed to spark her interest rather than her suspicion. Her lips curved, just barely. There's a mystery to you, Baron, one I intend to unravel. As the night wore on, the festivities spiraled into a haze of sound and color. Lyra slipped through hidden corridors, shadowing Marcus as he navigated the labyrinthine passages leading to his chambers. She moved silently, unseen by the guards, her curiosity eclipsing her duty. Through a narrow archway she watched as Marcus shed his Azurian disguise. With a tap to his holoband, his features shimmered and reformed, human once more. Brown hair, earnest eyes, a face that betrayed both exhaustion and resolve. He crouched beside a secured terminal, extracting data with quick, practiced motions, the flicker of code reflected in his eyes. Lyra hesitated, the urge to raise the alarm warring with a fascination and a flicker of something deeper that held her back. She lingered, silent, as he finished his task and slipped back into the shadows. At the following council, Lyra confronted Marcus with subtlety, her questions barbed but careful, hinting at her suspicions while shielding him from exposure. Their exchanges became more charged, each word layered with meaning, the danger between them now tangled with a growing, unspoken attraction. Lyra confronted Marcus in a secluded conservatory, her scaled tail deftly pinning his wrist. Glass walls shimmered with condensation, exotic blooms unfurling in the blue-tinted moonlight. He barely had time to register the subtle click of talons on marble before she was upon him, her presence electric in the shadowed hush. "You're not Azurian," she stated, voice cold and matter-of-fact. The tip of her tail curled tighter around his arm, just shy of pain. Marcus's other hand hovered near his holoband, but he stilled as her 4 amber eyes narrowed, daring him to try. Instead, he met her gaze, searching for malice and finding only calculation. "I'm not," he admitted, voice low, the words heavy with risk. "But you already knew that, didn't you?" Lyra inclined her head, the light catching the mosaic of blue and violet scales along her jaw. "I know many things. What I don't know is why you're here, or what you intend for my family." She leaned closer, her breath cool on his cheek. "So, my silence, in exchange for your truth." He studied her, weighing options he no longer had. "You want answers, and if I refuse?" She flashed her teeth, a gesture halfway between a smirk and a warning. "Then your next breath will be in a dungeon, or not at all." Marcus nodded once, his pulse settling into something like acceptance. "What do you want to know?" Lyra uncoiled her tail, releasing his wrist with a surprising gentleness. "Everything. But I'll settle for why a human risks death behind Azurian lines." She gestured for him to sit on a stone bench veined with luminous moss. "Tell me your truth." Their first exchange was tense, each word a feint and parry. Marcus revealed only fragments. A world called Earth, the shadows of invasion looming, his orders to learn the extent of the Empress's plans. Lyra listened in silence, eyes flickering, testing his answers for weakness. Yet she offered something in return, a glimpse of the pressures bearing down on her as the Empress's blade, the weight of loyalty and suspicion. Her tail flicked restlessly, betraying nerves she would never admit. Their clandestine meetings began, always in stolen corners, shadowed alcoves, forgotten courtyards, the maze of the Citadel's underbelly. At first the tone was brittle, every sentence a duel. Lyra interrogated him about human politics, alliances, and technology, sometimes rapid-fire, sometimes soft and insinuating. Marcus matched her, challenging her knowledge of Azurian dogma, probing for the shape of her doubts. One night, beneath a dome of flowering vines, she asked, "Why do your people resist us? We offer unity, order." He shook his head. "Unity at the cost of freedom isn't unity. It's conquest, and order can be a cage." She snorted, scales glimmering. "You humans are reckless, always choosing the harder path, even when it leads to ruin. That's what makes us unpredictable." He grinned, catching her off guard. "You find it fascinating, don't you?" Lyra regarded him with an inscrutable expression. "Perhaps. Or perhaps I just like a challenge." Bit by bit, the wariness between them faded, replaced by something livelier, spirited debates that left them both breathless, laughter spilling in the dark where it would be treason to be heard. She tested the edges of his wit, and he the depths of her conviction. Lyra was intrigued by human unpredictability, Marcus by her fierce loyalty and the isolation of her assassin's path. He saw how the mask she wore among the court weighed heavier than any armor. Their alliance deepened the night Marcus witnessed Lyra dispatch a treacherous courtier. He was moving through a service corridor, the pale light from his wrist console illuminating the path, when a muffled gasp caught his attention. He ducked behind an ornate screen, peering through a lattice to see Lyra confronting Counselor Vark. The courtier's voice was a frantic whisper. "You have no proof." "I do not require proof," Lyra murmured, so softly Marcus almost missed it. She pressed her hand to Vark's chest, claws pricking fabric. A droplet of iridescent toxin glimmered on her fingertip. With one swift motion, she traced a sigil over his heart. Vark's body stiffened, then crumpled soundlessly to the floor. Marcus's breath caught. He waited until she vanished into shadow before following her out onto a secluded balcony. The city stretched beneath them, a constellation of azure and gold. "You killed him," Marcus said, not accusing, but searching. Lyra's silhouette was sharp against the stars. "He was poisoning my mother's counsel. I do what must be done." He hesitated, then stepped closer. "Does it never trouble you?" She turned, her face aglow with the city's scattered lights. "Duty is its own chain. I wear it because I must." She lifted one clawed hand, tracing his cheek with a touch that was both dangerous and gentle. Her scales flickered with bioluminescence, throwing shifting patterns across his skin. "Do I frighten you, human?" she teased, voice low, almost playful. He met her eyes, his own steady. "No, I'm just careful." The air between them changed, charged with something unspoken. What began as a dangerous game now simmered with desire and mutual respect, each testing the boundaries of trust and attraction. Trust blossomed slowly, a fragile thing in the midst of danger. They shared secrets in whispers. Her rigorous training as a child, the endless drills that shaped her into the Empress's weapon, the moments when she questioned the blood on her claws. Marcus revealed his mission in fuller detail, the covert network that sent him here, the dread that haunted his every move. They confessed their doubts about the looming conflict, the lies spun by leaders, the weight of lives balanced on decisions made in secret halls. On one moonless evening, their meeting place was a chamber choked with fragrant vines, petals brushing their skin as they sat close, knees almost touching. Lyra's voice was softer than he had ever heard it. "You must have a name, your real one." He hesitated, then said, "Marcus." She tasted the name, her accent reshaping the syllables. Marcus. A faint smile broke across her lips, rare and unguarded. "It suits you." He smiled in return, his heart pounding with an unfamiliar hope. "And you, Lyra, are you always this fearless?" She tilted her head, scales shimmering in the half-light. "Fear is the shadow of love and loyalty. I carry both, Marcus." In that moment, her hand found his, claws folding carefully so as not to break the fragile skin. The last barriers between them dissolved, not as Azurian and human, not as adversaries, but as two souls caught in the storm's heart. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Lyra spoke Marcus's real name, marking a shift in their bond. Her voice lingered in the hush, and the silence between them was no longer emptiness, but promise. Marcus's infiltration of the forbidden archives revealed a chilling truth. The Xylan, a third species, were orchestrating hostilities between Earth and Azuria. The vault's cold, static-lit air was thick with secrets. He moved through rows of crystalline data rods, his fingers trembling as he accessed the restricted files. Images and intercepted transmissions flickered in midair. Xylan envoys masked in shifting holography, their insectile forms barely visible beneath layers of distortion. The evidence was irrefutable. Dates and names aligned. Incidents that had nearly drawn both worlds into war, all traced back to Xylan hands. He had only just downloaded the final files to his implant when the soft click of talons echoed behind him. Lyra appeared in the threshold, her silhouette rimmed by emergency lights. She regarded him not with anger, but with a grim understanding. In her hands, she held a data crystal. "You saw it too," she said quietly, stepping closer. "I thought I was the only one." Marcus stood, heart hammering. "You found something?" She nodded, her crest flickering blue. "Documents. Intercepts from the outer colonies. The Xylans seeded rumors, staged attacks that looked like Earth's doing, and others that framed us. They've been playing both sides for years." Their eyes met, the enormity of the deception settling between them. "So, the war plans," Marcus breathed. "They're not even ours. They're not Azurian or human." Lyra handed him the data crystal. "They're Xylan. They want us to destroy each other so they can claim what's left." The implications crashed over Marcus. Every sacrifice, every secret, every code he'd broken suddenly recast as a move in someone else's game. He pressed his palms to his temples, fighting for composure. "We have to stop this. We have to make them see." A shrill alarm splintered the silence. Security glyphs flared on the archive doors. Lyra spun to the console, fangs bared. "Guards are coming, you have to go." He stashed the data rod in his jacket, but Lyra blocked his path. "Not alone. You'll never make it past the patrols." He hesitated. "If you're caught helping me—" She cut him off with a sharp gesture. "We do this together, or not at all." Her urgency was contagious. They slipped through a maintenance hatch, darting down a narrow passage flanked by pipes pulsing with bioluminescent fluid. Lyra guided him by memory, keeping to shadows, her tail flicking in agitation. The sound of booted feet echoed behind them, Azurian security closing in. At a junction, Lyra pressed a hand to a scanner, triggering a concealed door. "This way," she whispered. Marcus ducked inside, heart racing. The corridor beyond was empty, but for the faint thrum of engines beneath their feet. He glanced at her, breathless. "Why are you risking this?" She met his gaze, unwavering. "Because it's the truth. Because I believe you. And because I am tired of living a lie." They reached an emergency egress, and Lyra keyed in an override. The outer hatch slid open, revealing the blue-black sweep of the southern terrace and the city beyond, alive with phosphorescent glow. Freedom was only a heartbeat away. That evening, in the phosphorescent glow of the South Terrace, they pieced together the puzzle. The city's towers gleamed beneath the twin moons, casting shifting light over their faces as they spread out data rods and glowing crystals on a low bench. Lyra's fingers danced over her tablet, cross-referencing transmission codes, matching Xylan's signatures to known incidents. "It's everywhere," Marcus muttered. "Political orders, assassination attempts, fabricated evidence, false communiques. The Xylan have their claws in every system." Lyra's jaw clenched, scales rippling with agitation. "They've been inside my mother's council chambers, feeding us poison for years." They worked through the evidence, pattern by pattern, tension mounting as the scope of the deception became clear. Marcus traced a timeline on his screen. "Here, see this? The Xylan triggered the skirmishes on our outer colonies by hacking into Azurian defense beacons. They made it look like a first strike from us." Lyra nodded, eyes burning with resolve. "And they staged the border massacre that started the campaign against Earth. My people mourned, demanded revenge, never realizing it was all engineered." A silence settled between them, heavy with realization. At last, Marcus spoke. "We need undeniable proof, something both governments can't ignore." Lyra's voice was steady. "The Xylan flagship, that's where they coordinate. If we can infiltrate it, extract a full command log," Marcus finished for her. "We can end the war before it starts." Before they could plan further, the sound of boots clattered along the terrace steps. A patrol swept into view, two Azurian guards in midnight armor, their visors glinting. Lyra reacted instantly, grabbing Marcus by the shoulders and pressing him back against a marble column. Their bodies were close, too close, his breath shallow against her neck. "Keep still," she whispered, her lips inches from his ear. The guards approached, scanning the shadows. Lyra angled her body, shielding Marcus from view. The pretense was clear, an intimate liaison, nothing more. But as the guards lingered, suspicion sharpening their gaze, Lyra leaned in and kissed him, soft at first, then urgent, her claws curling in his hair. The effect was immediate. The guards exchanged glances, murmured apologies, and retreated, embarrassed to have stumbled upon an apparent lover's tryst. But the kiss did not end with their departure. The tension that had simmered between Marcus and Lyra broke free, years of discipline and doubt dissolving in the heat of contact. When at last they parted, Marcus's hands were trembling. Lyra touched his jaw, her thumb brushing the edge of his cheekbone. The air between them was charged, fragile. "Your mask slipped," she murmured, voice low and amused. Indeed, the hollow band at his finger flickered, revealing a glimpse of human skin beneath the Azurian facade. Marcus smiled, the adrenaline still singing in his veins. "You seem to have that effect." Lyra's eyes softened, a rare tenderness flickering in her expression. "Don't let it fall again, not until we reach the flagship." He nodded, his hand finding hers, claws and skin entwined. The city glowed around them, but it was the spark between their bodies that truly illuminated the night. Their new objective was clear: infiltrate the Xylan flagship and gather undeniable proof. As they melted back into the city's shadows, determination bound them as tightly as any oath. They moved as one, partners now by choice, their connection deepening with every step into the unknown. The War Council assembled as the invasion neared. Beneath the stained glass dome of the Imperial briefing chamber, tension rippled through the air like a gathering storm. Holomaps of the contested border flickered across the obsidian table, casting ghostly light on the grim faces of admirals, generals, and emissaries. Lyra, standing tall at the Empress's right hand, let her gaze sweep over the room before she spoke. With hostilities escalating, it is prudent to review all recent diplomatic communications, especially those involving the Xylan, she announced, her tone formal but edged with urgency. I request a full audit of Xylan channels before we commit to irreversible action. The Xylan envoy, slender and masked in refracted light, shifted uneasily. Its chitinous fingers twitched, the language of its species only half concealed by the translator implant. Such a request is unnecessary, it hissed. Azuria's honor has never been questioned until now. Empress Veyra's gaze was cold and absolute. I have no patience for wounded pride, envoy. The review will proceed. My daughter's counsel is wise. Lyra inclined her head, concealing the quick glance she shared with Marcus near the council's edge. Their plan had been seeded. Within the confusion of the audit, their true mission could begin. After the meeting adjourned, officers spilled into the shadowy corridors, voices rising in heated speculation. Marcus slipped through the press, trying to keep his expression unreadable, but he felt the burn of scrutiny from every side. It was only a matter of time before suspicion sharpened into accusation. He turned a corner and found his path blocked by Jaxer, a stocky Azurian with ice-pale eyes, known for his ruthless efficiency and his loyalty to no one but himself. Jaxer's mouth curled in a predatory smile. Baron Lethan, he drawled, deliberately mangling Marcus's assumed title. Your accent slips. Your answers are always just shy of truth. And now the princess seems to favor you above all others. Marcus stiffened, mind racing for a plausible retort, but Jaxer leaned in, his breath cold. You're hiding something, human. I can smell it. Before Marcus could answer, Lyra swept in, her presence a flash of scales and authority. Jaxer, you're needed in the North Wing, now. Jaxer bristled. I said now. Lyra's tone left no room for argument. Her tail flicked in warning, and after a long, venomous stare, Jaxer retreated, vanishing into the tumult. Marcus released a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Lyra rounded on him, voice low and urgent. He suspects, and he's not the only one. We have hours at most, Marcus. If we don't act now, everything burns. He nodded, feeling the weight of her words settle like armor on his shoulders. The sense of urgency, of a clock ticking down to catastrophe, united them in unspoken purpose. Lyra led him through a series of coded doors, past biometric scanners and silent guards, into a chamber lined with obsidian and quartz. 3 figures waited. Vela the strategist, tall and composed, her eyes sharp as razors. Dran, the grizzled former fleet admiral with a cybernetic arm. And Sira, the young xenolinguist, whose knowledge of alien tongues bordered on obsession. This is Marcus, Lyra said without preamble. He's not Azurian. He's human. He's been working with me to expose the Xylan plot. The inner circle regarded him in silence. Dran's lips twisted in skepticism. A human spy in our midst. Why should we trust you? Marcus met each gaze in turn, drawing himself upright. Because the Xylan are playing us all. I have evidence, intercepts, forged orders, Xylan signatures embedded in both Azurian and Earth transmissions. If we don't expose them, your world and mine will tear each other apart for nothing. Sira's eyes widened. You risk your life for us. Why? He hesitated. Because your princess saw through my mask, and because I believe in the truth, even when it's dangerous. Vela tapped her talons on the table. If he's right, this could save millions. If he's wrong, it's treason. Lyra's voice was steady. He's right. I stake my name on it. A heavy silence, then Dran nodded. What's the plan? They gathered around the table. Marcus detailed the infiltration. The Xylan flagship, hidden beneath diplomatic protocols, would be vulnerable only during the audit chaos. Lyra and Marcus would breach its core systems and extract the proof. Vela, Dran, and Syrah would stage a diversion, false sensor readings, scrambled orders, a manufactured crisis to draw attention away from the real target. Syrah spoke up, her voice trembling with excitement. The Xylan language is layered, codes within codes. I can plant a virus in their translation relay, buy you a few precious minutes before they realize what's happening. Dran grunted. I'll handle the fleet movements. If we're lucky, they'll think it's just another drill. Vela offered a thin smile. And I'll keep the Empress distracted with just enough intrigue to keep her off our backs. Marcus looked at Lyra, a silent question in his eyes. She nodded once, signaling her trust and her resolve. The plan was set. Dangerous, desperate, but it was all they had. Later, in a private alcove far from prying eyes, Lyra confronted Marcus alone. Her scales shimmered in the low light, every muscle taut with tension. Before we do this, I need to know, she said softly. You've lied, risked everything, crossed lines that can't be uncrossed. Why trust me now? He met her gaze, all pretense stripped away. Because you showed me what loyalty means. Because you made me believe there's something worth saving. On both our worlds. He hesitated, searching for the right words. And because I care for you, Lyra. More than I ever meant to. She closed the distance between them, her tail curling around his arm in a gentle, possessive embrace. Her touch was cool and alive, a silent promise. Then we fight for more than peace, she whispered, voice trembling with emotion. Their alliance had become deeply personal, and both understood the stakes were now far greater than politics. In that fleeting moment, their fears and hopes entwined, fueling the courage they would need for the impossible task ahead. During a state ceremony, a new biometric scan threatened to expose Marcus's identity. The grand hall was packed with nobles and military leaders, every eye glinting with anticipation as the Empress welcomed dignitaries beneath arches of shimmering crystal. Marcus, disguised in his borrowed Azurian form, felt the familiar pulse of anxiety beneath his borrowed skin as he waited in the procession line. At the entrance, an array of scanners awaited. Voice, retina, and now, unexpectedly, a full-spectrum biometric sweep, a last-minute addition announced by the Empress's chief of security. The line slowed. Each guest paused as a golden beam swept over their bodies, flickering through layers of bone and tissue. Marcus gripped his signet ring, willing the holoband's algorithms to hold firm. Sweat pooled at his collar. In moments, the scanner would find discrepancies: his pulse pattern, the density of his bones, the unmistakable mark of his humanity beneath the Azurian illusion. Lyra, stationed near the dais in ceremonial armor, caught his gaze. Her expression flickered, lightning fast. Warning, calculation, resolve. Without breaking the rhythm of the procession, she glided to the scanning console, her tail sweeping the floor in stately arcs. Her claws danced across the controls, inputting a command string she'd learned as a child, an override buried in the palace's original code. A sudden stutter of static rippled through the hall. The scanner's beam dimmed, flickered, then died. A murmur swept the crowd. The chief of security hurried to the console, but Lyra was already there, expression cool. A power fluctuation, she announced. The backup protocol is unreliable. Resume the ceremony without further delay. Marcus moved forward, heart pounding, passing through the disabled gate as the crowd's attention turned elsewhere. The moment passed, but the cost was immediate. A sharp glance from the chief of security, and a murmur of suspicion aimed now at Lyra instead. In the aftermath, Lyra's actions drew quiet scrutiny. Several courtiers watched her with new wariness. The Xylan envoy's multifaceted eyes lingered on her, the faintest curl of its mouth betraying suspicion. Still, her sabotage had bought Marcus and herself the precious time they needed. Later, in the hush of a quiet study lined with ancient tomes and sealed windows, Marcus and Lyra worked in concert. A single lamp cast pools of gold across scattered data rods and hollow sheets, the air thick with the scent of ink and ozone. Lyra's claws tapped a pattern of encrypted keys, while Marcus pieced together fragments of intercepted transmissions and coded orders. The Xylan plot emerged, threads of manipulation and provocation woven through the histories of both their worlds. Here, Marcus murmured, highlighting a chain of communications. The Xylan staged the attack at Brevon's Gate, then leaked intelligence to both sides. Lyra's amber eyes narrowed as she read. They fed my mother false reports, orchestrated your fleet's response, all to set us against each other. And here, Marcus said, voice trembling with the weight of realization, they outline their endgame. The moment both our forces are exhausted, they'll deploy occupation fleets. They want to rule the ruins. The silence that followed was thick, electric. Lyra's scales shimmered with tension. We have enough, she said quietly. Enough to expose them. Enough to stop the war. Marcus stared at the evidence, the enormity of their choice pressing down on him. If we reveal this, everything changes. The Empress will be forced to confront her own council. Earth's generals will want answers. We'll be hunted by both sides. Lyra looked up at him, her gaze fierce and vulnerable all at once. If we stay silent, billions will die. The Xylan will win. He exhaled, voice low. So we risk everything. Together. She reached for his hand, claws wrapping gently around his fingers. Together. Outside, the palace braced for war. Sirens sounded in the distance, signaling troop movements. Fleet commanders marched through marble corridors, voices clipped and urgent. The sky beyond the study's windows flashed with the silhouettes of Azurian dreadnoughts, and farther still, the glint of Earth's warships assembling on the horizon. In the midst of chaos, Marcus and Lyra found a rare, stolen moment of calm. He pulled her close, burying his face in the cool curve of her neck. Her arms encircled him, tail curling protectively around his waist. Their breaths mingled, fast and unsteady, as the threat of tomorrow pressed in from every direction. I don't know what happens next, Marcus whispered, voice raw, but I know I can't lose you. Lyra pressed her forehead to his, her scales flickering with bioluminescence in the dark. We are already lost if we give in to fear, she replied softly. But we can choose what we become in the fire. Their lips met in a kiss born of desperation and hope, the boundaries between them dissolving. His hands traced the lines of her jaw, memorizing the feel of her. She responded with a hunger that matched his own, her armor falling away as easily as her reserve. They moved together to the low couch beneath the window, urgency giving way to tenderness. Marcus marveled at the strength and delicacy in her touch, the cool silk of her scales, the careful way she shielded her claws. Lyra, in turn, reveled in the heat of his skin and the pulse of his heart beneath her palm. Between whispers and caresses, promises spilled, of a future worth fighting for, of loyalty that transcended species and fate. They spoke of dreams, Lyra's hope to see her world rebuilt without fear, Marcus's longing to return home, changed but not broken. Each vow was a rebellion, a declaration that love could survive even on the knife edge of annihilation. Dawn crept through the window, pale and uncertain. The world outside was poised for war, but inside the quiet study, Marcus and Lyra clung to each other, hearts beating in defiance of destiny. Their love, forged in secrecy and danger, became both a rebellion and a beacon of hope as they prepared to face whatever the coming day would bring, together. At the final assembly, with war imminent, Marcus made his move. The grand hall vibrated with tension. Soldiers in dress uniform lined the marble steps. Azurian nobles clustered beneath the banners of war, and planetary leaders appeared by hololink, their faces flickering across the vaulted ceiling. Lyra stood poised beside her mother, the Empress, her scales reflecting the cold, silver light. Marcus entered in the guise of Baron Lethan, but his heart beat in time with the drums of destiny. The counselor's voice thundered, "Earth's ships cross the threshold. The hour has come." Marcus caught Lyra's gaze, a silent promise passing between them. Then he stepped forward, drawing all eyes. With a single deliberate motion, he deactivated his holoband. The illusion shimmered and broke, revealing his true human form for all to see. The court erupted in chaos. Gasps, shouts, and hisses filled the air. Guards surged toward Marcus, weapons drawn. The Empress's voice cracked like a whip. "Seize him!" Lyra moved before any could react. She stepped between Marcus and the blades, her body a shield, her crest flared in challenge. "Stand down," she commanded, her voice echoing through the chamber. But the guards hesitated only an instant. Lyra turned to the dais, holding high a crystalline data rod that glowed with encoded light. "Mother, Council, all assembled leaders, listen, we have proof. The war is a lie engineered by the Xylan to destroy us both." The Empress's eyes narrowed to slits. "Traitor, you would conspire with an enemy spy?" Marcus's voice rose above the din, steady and clear. "I am Marcus of Earth, but I am not your enemy. The Xylan have manipulated us. Here is the truth." With trembling hands, he transmitted the evidence to every display in the chamber: intercepted orders, recordings of Xylan agents forging attacks, schematics of their infiltration. The data projected outward, streaming live to Earth's command and every Azurian outpost. Syrah, hidden among the courtiers, triggered the broadcast to the galaxy at large. "It's done," her voice whispered over the comm, barely audible above the uproar. The crowd recoiled at the revelations. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Admirals stared at the evidence in disbelief. One Azurian general demanded, "This is deception! More trickery!" Lyra stepped forward, voice shaking with emotion. "No, my mother, my people, look deeper. The proof is irrefutable. Our enemy has never been human or Azurian, but the Xylan hiding among us." The Empress's fury shook the marble beneath their feet. "Enough!" she thundered. "Guards, arrest them both!" The guards surged forward. Marcus and Lyra moved as one, training, instinct, and trust transforming them into a seamless force. Marcus ducked a plasma blade, sending a guard sprawling with a precise strike. Lyra spun, tail sweeping legs from beneath two attackers, claws flashing in the blur of battle. A volley of stun bolts crackled overhead, carving smoking scars into the ancient stone. "Back!" Lyra shouted, pushing Marcus toward a concealed exit beneath the council dais. He triggered the release panel, a hidden corridor yawning open behind a tapestry. They ran side by side, footsteps pounding through winding passages, the shouts of pursuers echoing behind. As they fled, the palace comms erupted with dissent. Some soldiers lowered their weapons, unwilling to fight after witnessing the broadcast. Across both worlds, the transmission ignited questions, leaders demanding explanations, soldiers refusing orders, factions rallying behind the exposed truth. In the chaos, Dran and Vela covered their escape, Dran's booming voice distracting the pursuers while Vela sowed further confusion with false security alerts. Marcus and Lyra slipped deeper into the labyrinth, hands entwined, hearts hammering with adrenaline and hope. The palace shook with the Empress's wrath, her orders bouncing from wall to wall. Yet the tide had turned. News feeds blazed with images of the broadcast, the evidence dissected by analysts, doubters, and would-be heroes alike. For the first time, Azurian and human voices spoke not of vengeance, but of common cause. They emerged into a moonlit courtyard, breaths ragged. The city beyond was alive with unrest. Banners of rebellion unfurled, patrols clashed with civilians demanding peace, and in the sky above, ships of both worlds paused their maneuvers, uncertain. Lyra turned to Marcus, her scales gleaming, her voice trembling with fierce joy. "You did it. We did it. He caught her hand, drawing her close. Not just for us, he whispered. For everyone. For the future. As sirens howled and spotlights roved the palace gardens, Marcus and Lyra pressed on, fugitives and symbols both. Their love, once forbidden, now stood as a beacon, proof that trust could bridge even the widest divides. The legend of the spy and the warrior, the human and the Azurian, began to take root in the minds of all who yearned for peace. They paused at the edge of the city, the world holding its breath behind them. Lyra's tail curled around Marcus's arm in a silent vow. He smiled, hope flickering in his eyes for the first time in months. Together, they pledged to lead the new alliance, fighting for peace and the promise of a future neither had dared hope for, defending not just their own people, but the dream of unity for all. With hands entwined, Marcus and Lyra stepped into the dawn, ready to change the fate of worlds.